Welcome back to the Level Up Climbing Series. I'm Marcus, a not-so-great climber from Vancouver, Canada, who's hoping to get a little bit better through analysis and an increased motivation for climbing. This video is a little bit longer today as I go through my entire workout towards the later half of the video, just walking through my warm-up and my cooldowns. I think this was, for me, the last session of the year for 2024, and I just kind of wanted to recap all the things that I've been adding to my warm-ups and like post-climbing session stuff, and just that way you guys have a clearer idea of what I've been doing every session, as I feel like I've been making quite a few gains throughout my time in this series. So getting right into it, there's this purple 3 hex that I was doing just after my warm-up. Honestly, 3 hexes are still kind of that warm-up-y range, but this one I found a little tricky. The hold there on the right was pretty bad, so opting to go straight into that undercling is what made the big difference here. And it was pretty easy after that. This yellow 4 hex was really tricky to me. I honestly still have no idea how to do it. You have this just big press there on pressing on the right to try and go left, but it's really hard to get any real like lock off on the right. Obviously I want that right hand to eventually be in like pressing like almost like a dip, so that I can reach that upper hold, that upper yellow hold. But yeah, nothing here was really working for me. I was trying to find that right foot there, but just didn't really work, so I moved on. This yellow 4 hex is something I tried a session or two ago. You can look back at an older episode where I talk about how I found a little toe hook on the start, and I found that was going to make a world of difference, but I was unfortunately too tired the session prior, and this time I was feeling a whole lot better. But that next move felt really hard, so eventually you have to bump the left hand a little higher up, and even then I still felt like this move didn't really make sense. So here we are bumping the left hand up, and this time instead I went feet first, and for me that was significantly easier into that Gaston, and I love Gastons. And so I was really happy to figure that part out. I think it was probably a little unconventional beta, but it was really nice that I was able to like figure out this move that I'd been stuck on, and the rest of the climb was pretty simple. This black 3 hex was also one that was pretty simple. I think just very much my kind of style, and honestly felt like a 2-move problem, if anything. This yellow 3 hex was also pretty simple, but I will say the handholds were a little bit worse than I was expecting. But honestly, nothing too bad. Still kind of in that warm-up phase of just hopping on 3 hexes. I tried this blue 4 hex for a second, but in case you don't know, I have a finger injury on both hands, but a fresher one on the right, so I decided to stay off it. And this green 4 hex is probably the climb of the video. I spend quite a while on this climb. So it starts off with this move where you have to kind of pull yourself and stand up, really balance against this portion of the wall that's a little slabby. And at first I was trying to do it a little more statically, but here I realized that I kind of have to just pull and just get into that position. And I'm having trouble figuring out what the final position feels like, so I climbed the blue one and just try and figure out what it should feel like so that my body can remember it. This is something I talked about in an older video, what I call integrating by parts. Just trying to figure out the sections that you're stuck on, so that you can eventually try and get the whole climb together in one go. But I also find that for these kind of coordination-y dynamic moves, it's also really good to feel what the finish position is like, because then your body can kind of remember how it should be. So although those 3 attempts don't really work out, on this next attempt my body kind of figures it out, and from there it's still really tricky. These feet are a lot worse than you might expect, but at the same time I will say they felt better than I expected. Sometimes depending on the angle it can feel really bad, but here I was actually able to trust the feet. And you probably can't tell, but there's 2 little specks on the arête there on the left. And so I realized that that's what I probably have to go to. So it's a decent amount of commitment here to get to the left hand, but right there I'm grabbing the little nub, I'm gonna call it, because I'm pretty sure these are honestly just good footholds. And unfortunately I do slip as I move my left foot over, but what you'll notice is that once I got that first move once, I'm consistently being able to hit it over and over again, which felt really good. It just really means that my body's learning the movement and being able to reproduce it pretty much every time, or very consistently. So here I managed to get the left foot there, and now I'm focused on trying to get my right hand to the higher spec. But my hands are sweating. Eventually I realized that I'm told that there's the volume just to the left of that original spec, and I do find it's a little bit better being able to grab the volume. So I'm using the volume to try and get to the higher hold. On this next attempt, I try and stay on the better volume, or the better green volume there, and try and just lead my way to try and get better hands. And my thought was, if I can get better hands, then I can move the feet later. So here I'm just kind of leaning, trying to find that other hand, but that just doesn't really work. I realize I'm just too far, so we go back to trying to go moving the feet first. I also start bringing a chalk bag up with me because my hands are just absolutely sweating. I think it's a little frustrating. I have probably some of the sweatiest hands I've ever seen. And so collabs like these are so not my style. But yeah, the hands actually felt pretty good in that position, but again, it just doesn't really make sense, so I have to switch to the feet. And even with the feet, it's hard to determine if I'm supposed to be using that higher foothold there or just stay on the lower part. So I do fall, but I try and catch myself on the down climb holds just so I can try that move. And it's still really hard. So at least here I'm finally getting my hands to the position I want to be in. I'm just having trouble sticking it. And I think a big reason is because my left foot's kind of pressing me off the wall. And so my friend actually recommends that I try and go underneath. So instead of being on the foothold there, I'm just underneath it. And that actually helps significantly here. I'm not pressing myself off the wall as much. And here I managed to really stick it and can start to move the feet. And this is the furthest I've gotten so far. I do manage to catch myself there on the volume. Oh my gosh. I forgot how sketchy it was. And on this left volume, there's a really, really bad foot chip. I don't know if you saw my left foot just absolutely slip, but it's a really bad foot chip. I'm pretty sure even if I zoom in, you can't even see it. But just trust me, there's a terrible foot chip just on the volume that you kind of have to trust. So here again, I think the big difference was not using the higher foothold and staying on the green part of the volume. And you can see me looking, yep. And let's watch as that, it's just so hard to trust that left foot. So I eventually again try to integrate my parts. I'm going to this pink section, just trying to figure out this last move. And I realized that even this last move is very scary. I have to go kind of dynamically and get my right foot off that hold, and it means I really, really have to trust that left foot. So after this next attempt, it just seemed really tough, so I called it a day. So here we are in the Hive Vancouver, and I had not been to this gym in a while. So we hopped on this orange 3 hex, and I was getting smoked by it. I thought this was definitely one of the harder 3 hexes in the gym, and I think the big thing is the holds felt very slopey. Finally though, I make it through that beginning section, and these next holds are even more slopey. For a first climb of the day, first hardish climb of the day, I was getting quite pumped already. I was happy to find that toe hook there on the right to kind of keep me there, and I thought I could just quickly throw up that left heel as I could feel myself falling, but unfortunately I do miss. On this next attempt, I try a slightly different beta. Instead of going for the toe hook, I try to see if I can go straight to the right hand there, but I'm a little bit too spread out there and I lose any feet. So I go back to that first method with the toe hook, the match, the right hand, and this time I managed to hold myself before having to throw the heel up. So I can throw it up with a bit more control, and I do get the send. But I will say I think this was one of the hardest 3 hexes in the gym. So, and then this whole wall was really cool. If you see, there's a little sheet of paper underneath that blue star hold, and essentially it says that this was their campus set. So everything on this set was to be campus. The blue and pink were supposed to be strictly campus. Everything else they were saying, like, yeah, it was set with the intention of campusing, but you don't have to campus it. But blue and pink, they only want to see people campusing it. So I think the only problem was that the range was just insane. You have like the easy 2 hex, 3 hex, and then it jumps to this purple 5 hex. And I wouldn't say campusing is one of my strong suits, but I thought this was just such a cool idea that I wanted to at least work on this climb a little bit, and it didn't feel impossible. I try here like a figure 8 or figure 4, figure 4, and that just made no sense. I was trying to channel my inner Magnus Midbow. But yeah, everything here, I just couldn't even make the second move on this climb. I spent quite a few attempts just hoping that I can make any amount of progress, but damn is it hard. Yeah, so that climb made no sense, and that made me decide that I want to try this pink 6 hex instead. So it starts with this big swinging move to this hold, but yeah, that too just felt so difficult to me. just seemed slightly too far out of my reach. That was honestly a pretty decent attempt, but I think I'm still just a little bit too low on the hold. Trying to get the right momentum here is a little tricky too. And I just gave one attempt on this blue 6x because that first move, the pinch is just so fat, it is really tough. Eventually we move walls and I hop on something more doable. So we climb this black 4 hex. I think it was a little soft, honestly. All the holds are pretty good. Unfortunately, my left hand there slips, and I was a little disappointed. I really thought I'd flash this, but that's just how climbing is sometimes. I thought this green 3 hex was pretty neat. Starts kind of facing outwards, and you have to use this green hold to turn yourself around. I think it was intended to be a bit more dynamic, but I try and just static it because, again, I kind of want the flash. From there, it's pretty straightforward. All the holds are pretty juggy. They're just a little bit dynamic, and the body positioning is a little tricky, but I'm more than strong enough to make this finish, so pretty easy for me. Next, I hop on this black 4 hex, and at a quick glance, I thought this was going to be pretty straightforward for me. I think all the holds look pretty decent, and I'd say for the most part it was, but I just couldn't figure out the footing here, and I really wanted to go right hand, but there I even make kind of an attempt, but it just seems so far. I think in general I struggle a lot with these kind of cross body moves. So there I tried to reach through, but it didn't really work. I consider matching, and that's another thing I'm pretty bad at, is matching. There, if you saw, yeah, I'm trying to go right hand, but it just feels so far. I contemplate trying to use the black volume there on the left, the lower one. But the move really feels like I'm supposed to go right hand to that crimp. So eventually I try and rotate my body a bit more there and just really commit to it, and it felt so much better. After sticking it, it made the rest of the climb pretty straightforward. Again, the hand hold's pretty good, finish hold is the jug, so I was really happy to get that move. Again, although it was kind of simple, I think it's something that I struggle with, so I was happy to get the crossover there. And I think a big thing is just the usage of my hips and stuff is what allowed me to make that crossover move. This blue pockety climb I thought was pretty cool looking, but it was towards the end of the session already, and especially again, as I said, with the finger injuries, I felt like this was doable, but I didn't necessarily want to push it, so we moved on. And for the last climb of the session, I hopped on this pink 4 hex. If you look at these handholds, yeah, the next handhold's all the way by the top, so it's clearly a dyno. If you saw it, I went right hand and then left hand, but here I try and use the foothold as a thumb press, and that allows me to get into a better position. So unfortunately my left foot slips there, but yeah, we go thumb press, we go left foot, then right foot, and then the dyno, which we miss. So my next session here is in Surrey. This was the last session I was going to have at the end of the year, so I thought I'd just do a little recap of what my warm-up and what my cool-down exercises were. So when I can, I'll usually start on the rowing machine. I'll do anywhere between 2.5 minutes to 5 minutes. I'd say these days I've been more doing just 2.5 minutes. The main focus is just to get my heart rate up and just get my body warm. Then we switch into TWYLs. So this is to help with my rotator cuffs. Yeah. So I'll do 20 reps of T's to begin with. this is all done at 5-pound weights on each side. And then I'll switch into 20 reps of W's, 20 reps of Y's, so my arms are straight here, or as straight as they can be, and then 20 reps of L's, so these are at ideally 90 degrees. And all this is just to strengthen my rotator cuffs, which I feel like is usually a pretty common injury for climbing as well as volleyball. So next we'll get into some cat-cows. I'll do 6 to 8 reps depending on how I feel, and it's mostly just so I can get my spine and thoracic / lumbar areas moving. It's also just to kind of increase that flexibility in that compression and extension ranges. So I find it super helpful, really loosens up my whole body. Then I'll get into floor taps. So I'm just trying to tap the floor here, and I'll do 30 reps of these. I find these are super helpful because my hamstrings get pretty tight. So yeah, the whole goal is to try and touch the floor and using momentum to try and give me a little bit more range of motion. And usually I can eventually get the back of my hands touching the ground after a few reps. One additional focus is at the top. I try and really squeeze my glutes, get my glutes activated. Kind of treating it similar to a deadlift in that sense. Trying to get that full range of motion and just warm up those glutes. I find this is super helpful and something that I never skip during my warm up. So now is internal hip rotation. So I'll do 20 pulses on each side. So I'll try and hold it at the top for just like a split second. And this is just to try and strengthen my internal hip rotation, which is super useful on the climbing wall. And then still working on internal hip rotation, I'll do isometric holds. So I'll get into a 90-90 and I will try and keep the foot up as high as I can for 30 seconds. Just so that I have more time under tension. And then after those 30 seconds, I'll switch to the other side and do the same thing. Then I'll move on to isometric holds for my forearms. So I'm at 20 pounds here and I'll hold it in a flex position for 45 seconds. After that, I'll switch to extension, so 45 seconds of an extension isometric hold. And this is just to help prevent and treat any tendonitis in the forearms. And I find that since I've been doing these, my forearms rarely ever get pumped, which has just been an interesting side effect for me. So this is also something that no matter how little time I have, I'll always make sure I do this. Then I'll do some fingerboard warm up. So it's super light. I'm doing Emil Abramson's no hang protocol. It's pretty fast. It's like 10 minutes, and I feel like it really helps get my fingers a little bit warm and practices the different positions of half crimps and different drags. And I've found this super helpful. I try to do these at home since I got a hangboard at home. And since then, I feel like I've just been a lot more confident on the wall, and it's really helped rehab some of my finger injuries. So would highly recommend. Next, I'll do the robot drill. If you watch episode 1, it'll go over kind of what this is. But to recap, it's a drill from a Louis Parkinson video. And basically, you pause when taking a limb off the wall, and you pause again before putting it back on the wall. And I think overall, I've actually found this very helpful. I feel like I've been climbing a lot more intentionally while climbing statically. And I'll usually do this on 2 different climbs through my session. And even just looking at the video now, I can tell that I'm already climbing a lot better than I was in episode 1. I think the biggest thing I noticed is the use of kind of drop knees here, and hip position, staying close to the wall. And I've found that it's just been a lot easier as I've been doing this for the last 3 months or so. And And then I get my session started. So I'm on this black 3 hex, dino move at the start, and the rest is pretty simple. And for those of you guys who've been following the series for a while, you're probably wondering what happened to elimination. Do you still do that drill? And the answer is no, not right now. And the only reason is because, as I've mentioned, I have that finger injury. And I think it's just a lot to load a single hand with a finger injury. And so I'm just going to wait until both my hands are feeling a lot better. And then I'll get back into it. As I said, it's genuinely one of my favorite drills. It's something I made a short/reel about recently. And I guess just a minute to plug my stuff. Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram at marcus.leeson, where I'll be posting more shorts and reel content. But yeah, getting back to the climbing, this pink 4 hex, I was really happy to hit this dino second try. It's to this undercling, and I do think it's a pretty tough move. I do get off though because the right hand crimp after felt pretty bad, and especially with a relatively fresh injury, it just wasn't worth hopping on. So I had tried this purple 4 hex quite a few episodes ago. I still think it feels nearly impossible, but these first couple of moves felt a little bit easier than before. I managed to get that right foot up pretty fast, but making the press into that move just doesn't really make sense to me. I hopped onto this black 4 hex, something I'd been eyeing for a little while, and it looked pretty difficult. I had gone the yellow and orange climbs to the left, which are part of the same set and also 4 hexes, so this is the last 4 hex of the set that I need to get. And this climb was a little weird, trying to figure out where the hands go, and I realized I need to get the feet a little further. So after hitting the left hand, I bring the feet over, and it's kind of strange. I wouldn't necessarily have read this way, but yeah, you have to place your hand on just above the hold on the sloper. And I think the main difference here too was I used the right foot to kind of bicycle that left hold. And I thought that attempt felt pretty good, going kind of dynamically to that next hold. But here I try and static it a bit more, and unfortunately I'm slipping. So here, see, I'm bringing the right foot down a little, and when I bring it down just a bit too far, I can't make it. I just start to slip off the wall. So here I bring the right foot down just a little, and then I try to go as fast as I can to the next hold, and I managed to stick it this time. So I was really happy about that send. And that brings us back to this green 4 hex. Again, I just really wanted to get this climb. And luckily one of my friends, George, was here today. And he's pretty good at slab. I'm pretty sure he says slab is very much his style. And he actually managed to flash this climb, which was insane to me. So knowing that it was doable and also flashable, I had a little bit more confidence going into it. And his main piece of advice was to try and move the feet as far left as you possibly can on both holds there. So you saw me hopping towards the left there. And the main focus is trying to get my feet as far left as possible so that I can make these moves. I also, again, just had super sweaty palms this day, so had to make sure I bring the chalk bag and chalk up on every attempt. Especially since the holds, even though it had only been a few days later, the holds felt way greasier. But yeah, we switch the feet, and look, I'm just moving my feet as far left as I can. And again, just that left foot. You see, it sticks for a second, and then my left foot just kind of slips. So move the left feet over. And it's just very tough. So I moved the feet further left again, and on this attempt I try to weigh the hands a little bit more, and I'm actually moving my feet as far left as I possibly can. And here I can try and actually weigh the left hand more, try and get my body over the left hand so that my hands are what's weighting everything. And then I managed to stick this move, placing the right foot on the gray volume instead, and I was really happy to get this. I think I counted the attempts. It was like 28 attempts on this green climb, so I was really happy to get that. Hopped on this orange 5 hex. I was told that it's one of the easier 5 hexes in the gym, and I just think this first move's kind of tough, especially with considering I'm dynoing off a right hand crimp. I didn't want to give it too many tries, just again, the finger injury. But then I spotted this purple 5 hex, and it looked relatively soft, honestly. I think before I had seen it and just thought, oh, 5 hex, like, out of my pay grades, and there's just so many other good things to climb, so I never gave it a try. And I kind of regretted it because I really think this is something I could send. So it took me a while to figure out this first part, but eventually it's not too bad. Just get into this press, and I gotta try and go to this next hold. So at the time it felt pretty far. The main difference here, so after figuring out the start again, the start was pretty easy. But instead of going for like a heel hook, I make sure to stay on my entire foot, and the next move feels alright. But once I go for the match, I do fall. So I'm told to try and go for this toe hook on the left. I try a heel at first, and it does stick, but then this next move feels way too difficult. So we end up listening to the beta I was given and switch to a toe hook. And I do go for the move, but eventually I realized I definitely have to move that right foot a little further up. So we bring the right foot up, and I do fall because my toe hooks are awful. But yeah, we match, we bring the right foot up, and then we fall. So yeah, right foot up, really holding that toe hook, and then that move just felt so hard. I think it's too difficult for me to keep the toe hook in the whole time. It's just a little bit too far for me. And yeah, just making that hold, I feel so close, and it's just so frustrating. So we bring the right foot up, and finally I managed to stick it. And I thought it was gonna be smooth sailing from here, but I just got no feet after. I'm pretty sure I'm supposed to get my right foot up towards where my right hand is, but the flexibility required for that is insane. And so, not quite sure what to do. And after that last attempt, I just had no energy, so I moved on pretty much right away. So for the end of my session, I'll do a bunch of strength exercises. Here I'm trying to increase my hip flexor mobility and strength, so I'm doing kettlebell marches, 2 sets on both sides, and 10 reps each at 8 kilograms. So pretty much you just toe hook the kettlebell and you try and raise them as high as you can. I realize this looks a little funny, but dang, it really makes your hip flexors burn. Then I'll try and increase my ankle mobility. So I'll do 10 reps of these pulses where I'm trying to hold it at the far end range while keeping my heel on the floor. And I have a 15 kilogram kettlebell just to provide a little bit extra force so that I can get more of a stretch. So 10 reps on each side, and I'll do 2 sets each. And then to finish it off, I'll do 2 sets of 10 dips. Again, this is to increase my tricep strength because I've been having trouble with tricep presses and just presses in general. I feel like I used to be really good at mantling, and now they've become a bit of a problem, so it's something I've been working on. But yeah, overall, I've been really happy with how my progress has been over the last 3-4 months of this series. I think I have a pretty strong warm-up and post-climbing routine, and I've been seeing a lot of gains throughout the entire series. If anything, I think maybe I need to shorten my workout or my warm-ups. They do take quite a while, probably about 25 to 30 minutes total. But overall, I'm making gains.